Now this is that angle I talked about. Always to rotate, she must have that or hold that angle of 23.5. And they happen to notice that all the planets are now shifting as it's going toward that angle. Almost they all lean as they go through that galactic center. But through the galactic center, a large concentration of other bodies that are floating around as well that we have to pass through. Remember, she makes the pass 82 times already on the planet. So this is that angle I was trying to pinpoint. But remember, we'll be more angled. Okay? At the North Pole, they've also found plant fauna and flowers underneath our current North Pole. And if we go on here, this is again showing you that axis, and she rotates. Now, you see on this side where the sun is, those people are experiencing summer or spring. And the people at the bottom on the other side, that's day and night, but literally because she's tilted that way, they're going to get more heat because they're closer to the sun. When she tilts away, as on this one, these people are now, how can I say it, because the sun is there, getting more heat, and it's summer in South America, or vice versa. So it'll shift. She switches as she goes, and she moves around the sun. She switches her rotation for season. Now, as you see, this is the migration from the South Pole. There, nobody's telling you. This is where it was in 1610. In fact, they have maps that were done in the 16th century or 1500s that show absolutely no ice. Absolutely no ice. The eerie thing is they took that map and lined it up with satellite images that they could go through the ice and see the little lakes and rivers and tributaries. And do you know it matches? It absolutely matches what they'd drawn in the 15th century with no ice. How could that happen? So you see it migrates. This nice ice patch at the bottom and the top, they migrate. 1760, but they're slow migrations. And then 1910, bigger, greater migrations. Then to 2000, and again, they're faster than they were before. This is like 100 years below. That's only the small amount, but it's gone faster, if you notice, in this last 100 years. So she moves and migrates. This is magnetic North and South Pole. And to show you that this change has happened, it was as of 2011, January, that Tampa Airport closed, Tampa, Florida, for 7 days. They closed. Someone happened to, a reporter, nobody knew, but a reporter came on, a journalist, and he asked one of the guys, the contractors, what are you doing? He said, well, we're taking up all the landing strips and we're putting new ones down. He said, well, why? He said, because the Earth has changed 10 degrees in her orientation for North Pole, and it's throwing off our pilots. For every 1 degree, it throws off 40 miles. So when you heard in the news that they thought the pilots for Pan Am or whoever it was fell asleep because they were 400 miles off, not. They were using their GPS. And the guy said, well, why are they changing the lines? Because it's cheaper than changing the GPS in every plane. Okay, now Tampa Airport is pretty busy in Florida. Now how come that's not pronounced on the media to let us know that these changes are happening? So they're aware of it. And you know the North Pole has had a series of plane crashes that they don't know what happens because of these changes when it hits their magnetic GPS systems and their electronic systems in the plane. So these are the solar flares. This is our sun as she's erupting. She only does this once in a while. Brilliant and beautiful, but that's a burst or an explosion that keeps coming out, and it will leave holes behind. This is the Earth's magnetic field normally. This is how she holds all of us here, stays on her orbit, things like this in this change. And you see, this is how her normal pattern is. This is what's happening now. It's changing. This is how she's shaped. Yes, she's receding. There is less magnetic field. It's very low Gauss now, or very low intensity now. Used to be much higher. But remember, she's got to turn. So if she's locked down, she can't really turn that well, can she? She needs to be a little freer so she can turn. Now, it's just like you turning over in bed, but she does it every 26,000 years, that's all. She just turns, Mother Earth. Let her do her natural thing. I think it's quite egotistical to think we're going to meditate her natural qualities away. You know, we can meditate for a greater place, greater safety, greater water, greater community, greater people you're around during the event or the events, but we can't meditate her to stop her quality, because isn't it her growth? If I held you in clothes that you had on when you were 3 years old, would you be happy? Why aren't we letting her grow? This is how planets grow. Why can't we just work with her? Be prepared. So these already happened. That was from 2007. It's even receded more in the last 5 years to 2012. This is the planetary alignment. They found that all of them were kind of leaning right into, as they're getting ready to go through the opening itself. We're on the trajectory already. We're on the runway. We're on the ramp. Now, it will not happen on December 21st. It means it heralds all this energy will be coming to prepare us for these events. Spring doesn't happen and then it's summer in one day. It takes a gradual time to warm up. And it's not just summer and then fall. It'll take time to gradually wind down, which is actually what she does as she gets ready for her changes. This is the alignment that was just found that only happens every 2,700 years. Now, these are the ancient pyramid of Giza. Now, you notice, how did the ancient pyramids, more than 30,000 years old, how did they know to line it up with those stars exactly? How would they know? They were ancient, weren't they? Aren't we brilliant and smarter and better in this society today? One would think not. So what ends up happening is this alignment was done. They are geometrically absolutely perfect. They are lined up to, how can I say that, the Orion belt as well as the Pleiades. How can that happen? How can that happen? And obviously they were pinpointing something that was pretty important for us to know later on. So what happens with these alignments, how can I say it, is where do we get this information? How do the ancients know? Now, I can guarantee if you go to Egypt today, I can guarantee that if you ask an Egyptian who built the pyramids, he's not going to know. Well, our ancestors, he's not going to know that they align up with this, how can I say it, planetary alignment in the sky or the stars. He's not going to know that they're geometrically based. He's not going to know that because he's contemporary Egyptian. The same way contemporary Mayans will not know what the original plan was from the Mayan calendar from the ancient Mayans. They're not going to know. So they're all going around because they're a little upset. I ran into one, unfortunately, and I was not treated kindly. I will not say that name. But they were saying, everybody's trying to make money off of us, and we're the ones, the elders. But they have some nice knowledge, but they're contemporary. They could have been conquistadors from past life that wiped out the Mayan race. You understand? Because we switch back and forth from quality to quality, from life to life, gender to gender, and that's not a theory. So you could have been ancient Mayan yourself. You could have been ancient Egyptian and been there. But the modern ones aren't going to know. So stop listening to the data that's being forced. It's just going to be a nice change. It's just going to be, because on the planet, we always change spiritually, physically, and mentally. At this point, we're 3 dimensions. Nothing is affected one by itself. The moon affects us, not because it's there and shining nice light at night. That's the scientific way. It is a reflection of the sun on the planet, on that orb coming down to the earth during the night sequence of the rotation. Yeah, that's nice. But doesn't it affect you emotionally when it's full? Doesn't it affect the tides on the planet? Migration of the animals? So how come it can't just affect you mentally and emotionally in every way? Everything has an impact on you. Colors have a frequency range, and energy, how can I say, they have a quality of sound that you can't hear. You know you can't hear the dog whistle. Well, how can you know everything then? The human uses 2% of their brain on a daily basis, and we think we know everything. But that 2%, that's all we use. But I want you to learn to tie your spiritual energy or your intuitive energy to connect it to your mental energy. Not so much left brain thinking. Left brain is not made to deduce solutions. That comes from higher self and right brain. So all that creativity you're doing when you're crafting or making things, that helps to awaken your right brain, which is tuned into your higher self. But we live in a Western world, and they didn't want you to know that part, because then you knock them out of their jobs of power to dominate and control you. So we have a left brain thinking quality, but you have to move it away to this kind of quality. So as we see the galactic center, this is more poignant as you see the Earth heading toward the center of the galaxy. So nice little graphic here, but as you see the other bodies behind, but she's going through that center, as she always does, every 26,000 years like clockwork. Here you see a different system of the Milky Way. Now I want you to note something in this next picture. This was done by the Mayans thousands of years ago. You notice something? Isn't it kind of similar? This, and then this graphic glyph that they drew up, showing the center and pinpointing that center. It nearly mirrors this. And that's called the Hunapku. And in the Mayan, ancient Mayan civilization, this was so important that we pay attention to this, because this is when Earth changes, age changes, society changes, because we have these major cataclysms. We have to start brand new fresh, each and every time. Brand new fresh. Now, Just so you'll know, doing these changes as they happen, it's not going to be easy. So what will happen in that 3-day period in that second dream that they gave me in May was when the Earth rotates on her axis, she will stop for 3 days. As right now she's wobbling. You heard something in the news about, wow, the Chilean earthquake knocked it so the days are rotating longer. It takes longer for a 24-hour day now, perhaps, but it does. And it happened again. She's wobbling on her axis. What happens when a child takes a spinning top, remember those things, or a gyroscope, and you spin and they are fast, and then they slow down, and then what do? They stop, which is what she's going to do. So she's going to stop. That day-night, it'll happen, as they say, in a twinkling of an eye. Day, night, day. Wherever you are. If it's night where you are, night, day, night. Because she's changing, and then she'll stop. She will stay that way for 3 solid days. You should be in your place of safety, and we'll talk about where that is. Those places of safety. You cannot exist through this in your basement. You will not survive. You will not want to be in your basement, even if you survive those few days. I can guarantee it. So you need, by that time, to have a predetermined place or space that you want to go to. And I'll talk about that as we go along. So for 3 days, you will either be sitting all 3 days in light or all 3 days in dark, wherever you are. And I woke up from that dream and said, oh, we're on the light side, perfect. Okay, well, you know, at least, okay? But can you imagine most people at that time when that happens will go crazy because they don't know why there's no day, no night, no day, no night, and they're frightened because they didn't have the knowledge and they didn't prepare. So I feel sorry for them because they didn't take the time to heed all the warnings that have been given. So it's important that you understand that period. Now, I want you to understand something else. You know, in 7th grade, we go to science class, and we know that around the world, as she travels on her rotational axis every day, the atmosphere travels around the planet at 1,100 miles per hour, always, as she's going around. That's how the clouds, and it's 1,100 miles per hour. So what happens when she stops? That keeps going. So we will have 300 to 700 mile per hour winds on the surface. Nothing with a flat wall will exist. We just had our largest city in the United States knocked out with just, it was like 120, 125, 150 miles per hour, that hurricane. This is 300 to 700 miles per hour, whipping around for at least 3 days, and more actually, because when she starts up again, she will now rotate in the opposite direction. Got it? She will now, as she always does, this is how she switches and turns, and now she'll rotate the opposite direction. She'll go in one way, and then after that, it'll be slow and gradual, slow, slow, and then it'll speed up to her normal speed. Meanwhile, we still have the atmosphere going like crazy. Meanwhile, because she stops, what do you think happens when that sloshes all around on there? Water changes. How can I say it? They have had, even in an earthquake or a volcano, a mountain 7,600 feet will go down. So mountains aren't the best places. Certainly coastal lines are. So you need to be 250 miles inland from any coast anywhere. Islands will not be able to survive this onslaught of intensity. 250 miles inland from anywhere. And you need to be in your safe location.